When we speak of blessings, most of us remember the good things we have in life. For example, we remember the blessing of a job promotion, the new position our senior colleague at work has granted us. We remember the birth of our children, which gave us the blessing of becoming a father or mother. Or perhaps we were ill and overcame it, and once again enjoy the blessing of health. Blessings. What about the difficult times we go through? What can be said about those times in life? When our company laid off employees and fired us? When we were in a romantic relationship and the other person left us, and now we have to start over? What blessings are flowing there that we are not aware of? I once met a young woman who was 5 months pregnant with her first child. She was so excited about becoming a parent that she had decorated the nursery long before the due date. But something happened during the pregnancy, and she miscarried. She was numb with sorrow, her face lifeless, lost in silence. In 1981, as we were slowly approaching the new year, we thought we would all celebrate together, have fun, and enjoy each other's company during those days. But instead, we heard the news of my mother's incurable liver cancer. They told us she had only a few weeks to live. That Christmas was very sad for us. Is it possible, in such times when life becomes dark, for a person to grasp blessings that are not available at other times? In all our lives, there are times when we pass through the dark points of our existence. These dark points can be divorce, losing a loved one, or having our hearts broken by our children. At these times, we get discouraged, give up on our dreams, and it's very easy to think about the end. But God makes the most use of exactly these periods. Imagine a seed in your mind. This seed does not sprout as long as it is in the light, and it will never become the plant it is meant to be. Rather, it must be planted in the soil, in a dark place, so that its inner potential can take on its true form. Similarly, within us, seeds of excellence are deposited in the form of dreams, goals, talents, and potential, and they only get the chance to manifest in a dark place. It is said that every person who has achieved great things has successfully navigated through the dark periods of their life. Moses, peace be upon him, mistakenly killed an Egyptian man and spent 40 years alone in the heart of the desert, as if his sin left no room for forgiveness. But it was during those same dark times that something took shape in his life. He was being prepared, cultivating patience, humility, strength, and trust. Without going through this period, Moses would not have been able to reach the point where he could take his staff, and at his command, the Red Sea would part. He would never have been able to lead the children of Israel out of slavery and towards the Promised Land. So, those dark times were a prerequisite for his entry into a rich destiny. And this prerequisite applies to each and every one of us. Esther was an orphan who had lost both parents and lived in a foreign land. She felt alone, abandoned, in a dark corner. Yet, God used her to save the children of Israel. Joseph's brothers betrayed him. He was wrongly accused of a crime and thrown into prison, a dark place. But in the end, he rose to become the ruler of a nation. Elijah fell from a great, triumphant position to such a low point that he became depressed and wished for death. Yet, he is considered one of the heroes in the realm of faith and belief. It is said that David had an affair with a married woman, and later had her husband killed in battle. But after going through a grueling period of trial in his life, he turned his heart towards God and is now known as a man after God's own heart. Perhaps you don't understand this point now, but it is in these confusing points of life that growth happens for you. This is where your true character is formed. This is where we learn to trust God and develop perseverance, and where our spiritual muscles are strengthened. In difficulties, we pray more, we draw closer to God. We spend time in silence and receive divine inspiration. It is in these dark places that we reevaluate our priorities in life. We slow down our pace, dedicate time to our families, and thank God for what He has given us. Doctors gave a friend of mine distressing news. saying he would lose his eyesight due to an infection. They scheduled surgery, and according to the doctors, he would not be able to see. But during the operation, the doctors resolved his problem. It was like a miracle, and his vision was not impaired at all afterwards. Now, every morning when he wakes up, he spends 15 minutes staring at the trees, the flowers, and his children. He probably didn't know it then, but it was precisely during those dark days that a blessing was bestowed upon him, and something was happening inside him. He was growing, learning greater confidence, perseverance, and endurance. When we go through the issues and problems of our lives, we no longer complain about small annoyances. We don't get upset because we couldn't find a parking spot, or when we get stuck in traffic. If a colleague says something rude to us, we don't take it personally. In fact, we've been through such bigger problems that we no longer let these small things darken our mood. Your will becomes like iron. One day, someone close to me said, "I heard so-and-so is saying bad things about you. I'm very sorry about this." This person's intention was good. But when I heard their words, I said in my heart, "You don't need to feel sorry for me. I buried my father. I witnessed my mother's cancer and her healing. I learned management when everyone thought I couldn't handle it. When none of the circumstances were in my favor, I believed with all my heart that I would launch Lakewood Church, and that's exactly what happened. If I came through all those problems successfully, it certainly doesn't matter to me whether someone likes me or not. That issue is so insignificant that one should move past it very easily. When you go through several problems and calamities, you become like tempered steel. I myself acquired my present character from these very dark corners. Of course, as a human being, I too would prefer to experience happier times. I wish everything in life would go according to my desires. Not that I believe in the necessity of difficult times. But if I am standing here today, it wasn't thanks to the happy and joyful times of my life. Rather, it was in the lonely nights, those times when I didn't think I could handle life alone, when I saw no path ahead, that I learned to pray sincerely. It was then that I found a deep trust in God. It was then that I rebuilt my faith. So, in times of hardship, do not complain. In these difficult times, goodness and blessing are hidden. God is doing something that can only be done in the shadow of confusion and distress. When I had just lost my father and was learning to manage affairs, I was very afraid of standing in front of a crowd. Sometimes at night after dinner, I would take refuge in my bedroom closet to pray. Victoria, my wife, would look for me and ask the kids, "Where's your father?" And she'd come and find me in the closet. The truth is, when I was feeling good and circumstances were in my favor, I never prayed as sincerely as I did in those times. When everything was, so to speak, rosy, I hadn't bothered to draw closer to God. It was in the darkness and sorrow that I strengthened my spiritual power. Even though I was by no means satisfied with my situation, that very unhappiness caused me to grow and develop. Today I wouldn't trade that experience for anything, because it made me a better person. God, from these so-called dark days, provide for me. It is said that when Joseph was falsely accused and thrown into prison for 13 years, he lay there with his hands and feet in chains, and his spirit penetrated the iron of those shackles. It was in that prison that Joseph cultivated a strength and endurance in his spirit that would not have been granted to him in any other way. So, some lessons can only be learned in the tight spots of life. Stop complaining and wailing about your past, about how much injustice was done to you, about what this person or that person did to you. Maybe you are in a bad situation right now that you don't like, but believe that this very situation is for your own good and benefit. You are becoming stronger. Something is being formed inside you that you only gain through hardship. If you were always in joy and happiness, the highest hidden potentials within you would never blossom. If no opposition, problem, or antagonism were ever expressed towards you by someone, it might seem pleasant and agreeable, but it would cause your growth to stagnate. King David declared, "God enlarged me in my time of distress." It wasn't during good times that he achieved this enlargement and expansiveness. On the contrary, this happened to him when he was in a state of unhappiness. In his youth, he wanted to go out and have fun with his friends, but he was assigned to tend his father's flock of sheep. So it seemed he was out in the fields and plains without even a companion to talk to, and that he would never achieve his dreams. But during those years spent alone in the fields and plains, he prepared himself to become a hero. When he killed Goliath, people attributed it to sudden luck or chance, but the reality was the opposite. He succeeded because he had passed through times of failure with a steadfast perspective. When David couldn't find his way, he was alone and thought God had forgotten his existence. Yet he continued to do the right thing. He had grasped a fundamental principle. His perspective became, "God, I am under pressure and distressed. Perhaps I don't understand the reason for this situation now, but I believe that whatever it is for my good and benefit. I am becoming stronger. I am becoming more patient. My endurance is increasing, and I am learning to trust in you." When the time came, he not only emerged from his darkness, but emerged in such a way that something was added to him. He was promoted, elevated, and became better than before. So it's no coincidence that David says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. And also, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil." Essentially, David is saying that the same God who leads me to green pastures, the same God who leads me beside still waters, is also the God who leads me through the valley of the shadow of death. For all of us, trusting God is easy when we are lying on green grass. It's easy when we are beside still waters. But God wants us to trust Him when we are in the dark valley. God has not abandoned you. Perhaps you feel lonely, rejected, or mistreated. Perhaps you think life hasn't been fair to you. But God is still guiding you. That dark corner of life is part of the plan designed to transform you into your best self. You might not understand it, but faith means trusting God when life isn't going your way. Have the courage to believe that God offers you blessing and happiness even in the darkest places. Believe that what has harmed you will turn out for your good. David continued, saying that after you pass through the darkness of the valley, God will anoint your forehead with oil. He will prepare a table for you in the presence of your enemies, and your cup will overflow. Notice that according to this, to enjoy the feast spread before you, you must first pass through the valley of death. This means you must go through loneliness, illness, or the betrayal committed against you, so that your forehead can be marked with the sacred oil. To have a new beginning, you must cross the plains and deserts. You must do the right thing when conditions are unfavorable for you. You must remain in a job where they don't treat you well. You must go through hardships, poverty, and debt to reach the point where God makes your cup overflow. Often, people want overflowing cups, but don't want to take on the trouble of going through the valley. We pray, "God, show me more favor, give me more power, multiply this good thing in my life." God says, "Very well, but first you must be willing to take my hand and go through the valley with me." It is in the dark places that we truly present ourselves to God. This is where it becomes clear whether God can entrust you with more favor, power, or resources. We must look at the matter from this perspective when we are in the dark. See the dark passages of our lives as opportunities for growth. It's not by chance that you find yourself in such a position. If God didn't intend to use these difficulties for your good and benefit, He wouldn't have allowed them to happen. Perhaps you don't understand the reason for that unfortunate event today, but God knows what He is doing. Pass the divine test. In 1999, when my father passed away, I faced the biggest challenge of my life. I was in a tight spot. When a person loses someone, they get discouraged and think God intended to disappoint them, and that no more good days will come in their life. But I realized that whenever I lose something in my life, something else replaces it. It's as if something has ended, but God has a new beginning in mind. A friend betrays you and separates from you, ending the relationship between you. But at the same time, God is preparing a new relationship for you. He has another friend in mind for you who will cross your path on your destined journey. Or you lose your job, your position, or a major client, but God has a position, new opportunities, and new levels in business prepared for you. If you go through the valley with faith and belief, believing and knowing that God has control of all affairs, you will reach that table prepared for you, that mark of oil on your forehead, and that overflowing cup. Years ago, I had a friend I used to play baseball with. He was the star of the team. He always shone on the field. He was exceptional at hitting and positioning. His dream was to become a professional baseball player one day. One summer, he was invited to play for a club that traveled across the country, playing games. Only talented players got the chance to play for this famous team. That summer, my friend played for this team and performed exceptionally well. But some people were jealous of him. They spread lies about him and created problems for him. The next year, although the coach really liked my friend, he believed the rumors he heard and didn't invite him to play for the team again. My friend was very discouraged. He tried to get onto other teams, but it was too late. All the team's rosters were full. For the first time, summer had arrived, and my friend had no team to play for. He missed the whole season. No games, no opportunity. My friend was in the dark place of his life. He didn't know why this happened, and it wasn't fair. It could have made him bitter. But he didn't let those times embitter him. He knew that the same God who led him to still waters and green pastures would also lead him through the valley. He went to the practice field every night and worked on developing his skills. He asked his friends to throw balls for him so he could maintain his fielding abilities. He continued weightlifting, running, and staying in shape. It was true that he had no team to play for, and the treatment he received was unfair. But he knew that on the other side of the valley, a table was being prepared for him. You have to go through the valley to reach the table. You must not get stuck in the dark valley. Don't lose your passion and adopt a bitter perspective, constantly saying, "I don't know why this happened at all. After all these years I worked for them, how could they fire me? How could my health condition be this terrible? Oh, why did that person do that to break my heart?" If you're always looking for these whys, you'll get stuck right where you are. See the matter this way. See the question marks, the things you don't understand, as exclamation points waiting to be straightened. If you want God to turn those question marks, those things you don't comprehend, into exclamation points, you have to trust Him. In those same difficult passages where there is no fairness, instead of trying to find the reason why things happened, dare to say, "Lord, I know you are still seated on your throne of sovereignty. Maybe I don't understand the place I'm in now, but I know that when I get to the other side, I will be amazed. My table is prepared. The right people are waiting to meet me. The sacred oil to be applied to my forehead, in the form of a raise, a promotion, and a new level of life, is on its way." If you approach the dark points of your life with this perspective, you will witness the transformation of question marks into exclamation points. God will amaze you with His goodness and blessing. The same thing happened to me. After my father passed away, many question marks swirled in my mind. Can I keep Lakewood going? Can I be a good speaker? Will anyone even listen to me? As I navigated through the darkness, maintaining my faith and keeping my perspective firm, God turned those question marks into exclamation points, one by one. Can I be a speaker? Will anyone listen to me? Well, several television networks came to cover my speaking programs. I wrote several best-selling books. In addition, we have radio channels broadcast via satellite. Perhaps you are right now in one of those turning points of your life. You've recently separated and feel hurt and alone, and you don't know if happiness will ever show its face to you again. In answer to that question, as a first-hand witness, I assure you, if you keep moving forward on this path and believe in God, God will place someone in your personal life, on your path, who is better than you could have imagined. Someone kinder, more friendly, more loving, who will treat you like a king or queen. So, the next part of your life is better than the first. God has prepared interesting things for you. Maybe you are sick now. They've told you your health condition isn't good. Keep your faith. Your exclamation point is on its way. My mother was diagnosed with incurable cancer, but she continued living healthy and well for 36 years after that date. That's very good news, but you'll be even more amazed when you hear the rest. My mother, in gratitude for this regained health, goes to the hospital every week to pray for the patients. This is where they say an enemy or cancer becomes a cause for good if God wills. Perhaps your problem and that dark period in life relate to financial matters. For example, you've had trouble at work lately, or you've lost a certain customer, and you ask yourself, will things get better than this? Yes, when you reach the other side of that valley, they will make your cup overflow. Abundant increase in income will grant you a new level of life. Maybe you've wandered in this dark valley for a long time, but now it's time to get ready. Soon you'll reach a breakthrough point, and your problem will be solved. So don't stop having faith. Keep your passion alive, because God hasn't brought you this far to abandon you halfway. He has prepared amazing things for you. Exactly this happened to my baseball friend. One day, this same friend went out to practice. He was completely absorbed in his work, focusing on his skills. What my friend didn't know was that, as fate would have it, a talent scout was sitting on the platform of that very practice field. The scout had come to evaluate someone else, but when he saw my friend's talent, he called him over and said, "I'd like to invite you to join our team." It was God's work that placed that talent scout in the right place at the right time. God knows very well how to guide you towards your destiny. My friend went and tried his luck. He worked hard, played in the minor leagues for a few years, but he kept moving and entered the major leagues. His professional baseball career was both long and successful. It's not people who determine your destiny. The authority for this matter is in God's hands. It's not that a broken relationship can stop you. Sickness cannot stop you either. Even injustice cannot stop you. If you pass through the darkest points of your life with a good attitude and do the right thing, you will reach that moment of wonder. You will see the greatness of God. They say that one day, Jesus, peace be upon him, was supposed to feed thousands of people, while he had only a meager amount of food with him, consisting of 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. He took the loaves and fish, looked up to heaven, gave thanks to God, and then, as they say, he broke the loaves. The loaves multiplied. Notice that the blessing was hidden in the breaking of the bread. The more he broke the loaves, the more they multiplied. In life, there are times when a person feels broken, like when one's dreams are shattered, or when our heart is broken. That young woman I mentioned at the beginning, as she told the story of losing the child she was pregnant with, tears streamed down her beautiful face. She said, "I wanted this child more than anything in this world. When I lost my father, I felt as if a part of me had died." When life breaks you, don't let those times make you bitter. Don't give up on your dreams. A setback is not meant to be your final outcome. It is a sign of the abundance of grace God has in store for you. David said the same thing when he declared that God enlarged him in his time of distress. Perhaps your setback has temporarily stopped you. If you persist in your faith, God will use that very stoppage to promote you. Loss, disappointment, heartbreak from others' broken promises, all these exist. But the truth is, these events have worked together to prepare you for your elevation. If you have experienced multiple heartbreaks and separations, don't let sorrow into your heart. On the contrary, the more you are broken, be sure that God wants to raise your position even higher. The greater your disappointment, the more others have hurt you, the greater the reward God will give you. He has prepared a worthy compensation for what you have lost. The sadness is temporary. Don't resign yourself to staying in the valley of death. Don't get used to being in that dark passage, because the valley is not meant to be your home. The shepherd wants to lead you through the valley. On the other side of the valley lie abundance, boundless joy, excellent relationships, health, wholeness, and the fulfillment of your dreams. If a grain of wheat is planted in the soil and dies, it will be alone. But when it dies, it produces a much more abundant harvest. You too could keep a seed on your desk for a lifetime to test it. But this seed will never become what it was meant to be unless it is placed in the heart of the earth. Before you plant that seed, its potential cannot blossom. As long as the seed is on the table, its place is comfortable. It doesn't have to grow and face adversities. The seed's potential remains hidden within it. Only after it is planted and enters the germination process, when the outer shell is cracked and new growth begins, does the seed flourish and bear fruit. The main problem that many people grapple with is that although they desire the fruit, they don't want to go through the process of growth. They don't want to put themselves through hardship. They don't want to be forced to grow, or to face adversities, opposition, or betrayals. But without passing through the darkness, the high potential within you remains buried. The seed does not sprout in the light. If you ask the seed itself, it would surely say, "I don't want to go into that dirty soil. It's dark there. I'll be alone, and people will walk on the ground above me when I'm dead. It's not comfortable." The seed feels buried alive, as if its end has come. But what it doesn't realize is that no one buried it. They planted it. Although it's not a comfortable place, it's a very important part of the seed's growth process. Over time, as the seed germinates and grows, instead of just being a tiny buried seed, it becomes a beautiful flower, blooms, and bears plentiful fruit. Now, if you ask that same question to the flower, it would tell you, "I didn't like that dark place I was in, but now I understand that everything I have comes from being there. Look what has ultimately emerged from me. Look what I have become." Sometimes, in life, there are moments when a person feels buried in the soil. It feels like thoughts are circling in their head, whispering, "Your good days are over. You're ruined career-wise now that you're unemployed. Your future is destroyed now that you're divorced. This illness is the end for you." In the face of these thoughts, adopt a new perspective. Know that you haven't been buried, you've been planted. If you were never meant to face hardship in life, like loneliness, disappointment, losing a loved one, you would never realize the greatness of what is inside you. It's time for your potential, like that seed, to be released. Not only will you emerge from the darkness, but you will emerge better, stronger, completely flourishing, with increased yield. Whenever you feel something in your life is dying and being lost, that darkness surrounds you, you feel the pressure of the soil and see no way out. These are signs that something new wants to enter your life. A new growth, a new talent, new opportunities. All these will find you. After my father's death, I felt buried. I felt the pressure on me. But in the heart of that dark time, when something had been taken from my life, God brought about a new birth for me. It was then that I became aware of talents and gifts I hadn't known before. I didn't like this process, but that very process caused the flourishing. None of us like being planted in the soil. It's not comfortable there. We are alone. But in those very hardships, we must remind ourselves that new growth is on the way. It's true that something inside us seems to die, but something else comes alive. You haven't been buried, you've been planted. When you lift your head from the soil, you will see abundant fruit on your branches. I invite you to step into this process with enthusiasm. Many people make those times bitter, lose their enthusiasm, and get caught up in trying to find an answer to the unanswerable question. Why did this happen to me? I thought God was my supporter. Have the courage to trust God. He knows what He is doing. God doesn't send problems. Rather, He uses problems. So don't fight against hardships and afflictions. Perhaps all around you, as far as the eye can see, there is soil, and it's not comfortable. But the soil is not meant to stop you. The reason for the soil is to allow you to manifest the excellence within you. If you navigate through life's hardships with a positive attitude, God will turn your question marks into exclamation points. For every valley you cross, on the other side, a table is prepared for you. Fresh oil is ready, and you will be blessed to the point where your cup overflows. So remember, you haven't been buried, you've been planted. It takes a while to germinate and become your true self. In all our lives, there are times when things don't change as quickly as we expect. We pray, we maintain our faith, but our health doesn't improve, our situation doesn't change. We still haven't met the right person for our lives. In these times, it's easy to feel lonely and forgotten, as if things are never going to change, as if we are living in a dark season. In these dark seasons, you can't see what God is doing. It seems like nothing is happening, but God is at work behind the scenes. He is preparing His finest gifts in the darkness. From our perspective, there is no change because the old problems still exist. But God has not forgotten us. In dark times, when life seems to have wronged us, we must remind ourselves that God has control of all affairs. If you don't see change, it doesn't mean God is idle. God doesn't unveil what He has prepared in advance. Trusting Him in times of joy and happiness is very easy. But you must learn to trust God in the dark seasons of your life, when things are against your will and you see no change. David, who was just a youth when he defeated Goliath, experienced this great victory. But after that, he fled from King Saul for years. Sometimes he hid in caves. Sometimes he slept in the desert. I'm sure he prayed to God, saying, "God, protect me from Saul. I don't deserve these conditions." But his prayers seemed to hit a wall. God wasn't changing his life. Saul was unfair to him, and David was wronged. But dark seasons are times when you must pass tests and prove yourself. It is our own choice whether to be negative and live discouraged, or to look to the sky and say, "Lord, I don't know anything. My situation isn't fair, but I trust you. I know that you are not just the God of good times, but also the God of dark seasons." It is said that Ruth lost her husband when she was young. This loss shattered and heartbroken her. She could have given up on life and felt sorry for herself forever. But she was aware of this principle. Dark seasons are not the end of her story. Failures, disappointments, losses, and illnesses are just extra steps towards your destination and destiny. You may cry all night, but in the morning, joy and happiness will come to your home. The night is not the end of the story. Step forward with faith and trust, and keep believing that dawn is near. Job, like other prophets, was led through a dark season. In his life before this, everything was going perfectly. He was happy, healthy, and successful until his life suddenly changed. He was afflicted with a painful disease without warning, so that his whole body was covered with large boils. He lost his business, his daughters, and his sons. His whole world became dark and murky. The interesting point of the story is that Job was also a good person. He loved God. He was an excellent, honest person. If he had been a deceitful person, made wrong choices, and not worshipped God, whatever happened to him would have made sense. But as the saying goes, God sends rain on both the just and the unjust. Simply because someone is a good person does not mean they won't face hardship. If you are going through hardship right now, it does not mean you did something wrong, that you displeased God, and that His favor no longer covers you. Rather, it means God is raining His rain upon you. If there were no rain, you wouldn't grow. God wouldn't bring about these conditions for you if they were going to lead to you being kept from your destiny. While you are in the palm of God's hand, He watches over you carefully. Perhaps you feel like you are in the heart of a fire, but it is God who controls the intensity and heat of the fire. He does not impose upon you anything beyond your capacity. So stop repeating these phrases. I'll never get out of this situation. I'll never be healthy again. I'll never achieve my dreams. No, it's not like that. You are simply in a dark season of your life for which God has a solution, and the breakthrough point lies ahead of you. In this situation, Job did what many of us do in hardships. He focused on the problem, on what was unpleasant, magnified it, and became overwhelmed by it. He said, I will never again taste pleasure. Lengthy nights of misery have been appointed for me. He was saying, this trouble is permanent. Oh, this is my story. They have condemned me to spend nights of unhappiness. The same events that from God's perspective are called nights of hope, from His perspective, were nights of misery. Of course, I don't mean to say that what he faced was easy and simple. On the contrary, it was both serious and sad. But his mistake was considering his situation permanent. Perhaps what you are going through is very difficult, but the good news is that you are passing through it. So it's not your final destination. It's just a dark season, not a dark lifetime. In the darkest time of Job's life, when he seemed more discouraged than ever, one of his friends said to him, God will fill your mouth with laughter, and your lips will shout for joy. God was saying to Job, Job, things are bad. You don't understand this bad situation, but don't worry, it's not permanent. It's just a season. I want to fill your mouth with laughter. God is telling you the same thing He told Job. Maybe life hasn't been fair to you, but you are not meant to be discouraged. Your problems have confused you, or illness has placed a heavy burden on your shoulders. But joy is on its way. Health is on its way. Breakthroughs are on the way. A promotion is on the way. God wants to fill your mouth with laughter. This means God intends to do something very unusual, so extraordinary that it will amaze you, and you'll just laugh in response. Thankfully, the same thing happened to Job. Not only did he pass through that dark season, but God restored his losses twofold. He was given twice as many bulls, sheep, camels, and donkeys as he had before. He found himself far healthier than before. God always makes the enemy a cause for good. If you keep your faith, you won't just narrowly escape that unpleasant situation. You'll come through it in a far better state than before. They say that after this event, Job lived for 140 years and saw his children and grandchildren for 4 generations. When he died, he was an old man who had lived a long and good life. When we hear the name Job, we usually remember the pain and suffering inflicted upon him. But the truth is, all that pain was just one season of his life. Perhaps a person may be in darkness at times, but like Job, you will emerge from this darkness and experience a long and blessed life. They say after this, Job lived for 140 years. What does after this mean? After this means after that dark season, after the loss, disappointment, divorce, illness, you still have great days ahead. My own father went through a dark season in his life. He married at a very young age. Unfortunately, his marriage didn't last, and after the divorce, he was very broken. He resigned from his position. Those who were there told my father he would never preach or speak again. They said his career was over. But the good news is, it's not people who determine your destiny, it's God. 2 years later, my father returned to his work and then married my mother. They had 5 children and stayed together for almost 50 years. They started Lakewood Church, and my father spoke there for 40 years, influencing many people with his words. All these good things happened after his divorce. After that disappointment, my father thought that event would ruin his whole life. But it turned out to be a season of his life, with more still ahead of him. It was just a dark season that passed. He lived a long, blessed, faithful life. So don't let the dark seasons of life lead you to believe that good days won't come again. As long as you are alive, know that God has something amazing in store for you. In dark times, it's easy to talk about problems and the unkind way life is treating you. We might get used to talking about our problems. But the only result of this is more discouragement, failure, and the destruction of joy and happiness. Instead of complaining, one of the best things you can say is, "Everything is good." By repeating this sentence, you are effectively saying, God is still the one and only ruler, and I'm not going to spend the rest of my life with bitterness, unhappiness, and guilt. Maybe we are in a dark season, but we know this too shall pass. Everything is good. Now someone might pop up and say, "Well, based on what you're saying, I thought your health report wasn't very promising." In response to this person, you could say, "Yes, that's true, but everything is good. God is restoring my health." Someone might say, "Your child is still lost." You could answer, "Yes, but I'm not worried about it. Everything is good. My family and I are serving God." You're probably wondering, how can one say everything is good when we've lost a loved one, failed in a romantic relationship, and still haven't found the right person? The reason I want you to answer this way is that you know the dark season is temporary. You know joy is on its way. What has happened to you as a loss, God will turn into gain. You know that after this period, a long, blessed, faithful life awaits you. So don't consider yourself wretched. We all have dark seasons in our lives, times we don't understand. When speaking during this period, speak positively. If you intend to magnify something, be careful that the thing you magnify is not your problem, but rather magnify God. Talk about His greatness and favor. It's true that there are great challenges on your path, but remember that your God is also great. Perhaps the cure for the illness you suffer from seems impossible right now, but God can make the impossible possible. Maybe a certain obstacle seems permanent to you, but with just one favor from God, you will be launched into the next phase of your life. Stop worrying. God says everything is good. From a financial standpoint, everything is good. From a health standpoint, everything is good. From a family standpoint, everything is good. Maybe it's night now, but morning is on its way. God will show you what He has been preparing behind the scenes. Every day you keep your faith. Every day you adopt a positive attitude despite the darkness. You are successfully passing the designated test. When darkness prevails over righteousness, light will burst in. So, quite suddenly, when you least expect it, it will happen. You won't see it coming. One day you'll wake up and see darkness everywhere. As usual, you'll see nothing has changed. But suddenly, the breakthrough you needed will come. Suddenly, your health will be transformed. Suddenly, that right person will show up. Light will burst in. Perhaps, as we mentioned in the first part about Moses, you too may have made a mistake that caused you to end up in a dark night. So there has been a delay in something reaching you, and you had to divert your path towards the desert. You are not where you imagined you should be. Now you think you should settle here and never fulfill what God deposited in your heart. You don't see it, but right at this moment, God is preparing you for your return. He takes into account all those wrong turns you took, all the mistakes, all the unfortunate breaks that happened in your life. Perhaps you consider those conditions the end, but the truth is, it's only a temporary delay. Now is the time of testing, the time of stability, when your character is being formed. God is at work within you, smoothing out your rough edges. He is preparing you for the place He has destined for you. 40 years after Moses' mistake, God returned and said, "Very well, Moses, now you are ready for me to guide people through you." It is said that Moses was the most humble man in all that land. It was in that dark season that Moses changed. He learned to wait for God, to listen to God's voice, and to walk with humility. In the end, his character was elevated compared to before. So in times of hardship, remain flexible and open, and say, "God, build me and shape me. Show me where I need to change." In fact, it's during times of hardship that you grow. Even physically, our growth happens at night while we are asleep. Similarly, when you are in a dark season, maybe you don't like your situation, but that same situation works in your favor. You are becoming stronger. You must be ready for the place God intends for you. Initially, Moses couldn't conform to the law. He had made a mistake and was forced to flee. He did not cancel the destiny he had planned for Moses. Rather, he used that dark season to prepare Moses. When Saul was pursuing David in the desert, David had several opportunities to kill Saul. As they say, he could have taken his life and gotten rid of him. But he didn't do it. He knew God had anointed Saul's forehead with oil. So he told his men, "I will not harm the one whom God has anointed." After passing these tests, after David showed God his true essence and proved himself a man of character and integrity, God himself took care of the matter of Saul, and David reached the position of kingship. It is necessary, while in a dark season, to pass the tests, to change where change is needed, and to confront those areas of your life that God brings to light. You must prove to God that you will do the right thing during hardship and forgive others who have harmed you. Then, from that place where your character has been cultivated, just as was done for Moses and David, God will bring you out of your dark season and take you where you need to go. It is only in the darkness that one can grow. Without dark seasons, you would not reach the complete capability that God has intended for you. The caterpillar left to itself has no problem, although everything in its life is fine. But a voice within says, "You're not meant to crawl your whole life. There's more to you than this." It gets excited and thinks, "Yes, that's right." It takes a look in the mirror and says, "What was I thinking? I'll never fly. I'm just a glorified worm. Flying is impossible for me." But one day, this caterpillar spins a cocoon around itself and hangs upside down from a branch. Everywhere is dark. It can't move or eat. If you asked how it was feeling while in the cocoon, it would tell you, "Let me go back to where I was. Let me be that caterpillar again. I don't like it here at all. It's not comfortable. It's dark. I'm alone." What the caterpillar doesn't realize is that transformation happens in that darkness. A little later, it feels wings growing on its back. Then it gains enough strength to emerge from the cocoon. Now, instead of crawling on the ground, it's a beautiful butterfly soaring through the air. We, like this caterpillar, detest the dark seasons of our lives. We don't like being in unhappiness. From our perspective, nothing is happening. But it's in these very times that God puts us to sleep. He doesn't intend to make us miserable by sending calamity, but transformation happens in the darkness. You are growing. He wants to improve you. Maybe you don't like it yourself, but you must remind yourself that you are growing wings. You are going to be elevated to a new level. You no longer need to crawl. You no longer need to be average. You are being prepared for valuable things. You may be in a dark season, but I tell you with confidence that one day your cocoon will open. I will see the wings emerging. Now is not the time to be discouraged. You've reached the edge of flight. You're going to become a beautiful butterfly. You're going to go places you never imagined before. Now, stop complaining about the cocoon. Don't say, "It's dark here. I'm unhappy. I'm alone." Adopt a positive attitude. Whatever is happening is part of the process. God is guiding you from glory to glory. It is said that a man named Jacob did not live a righteous life. He wasn't honest. He cheated people and even deceived his brother, swindling his inheritance. You might think God wouldn't have anything to do with such a person. But God doesn't abandon us. He continues to work on us, and He shows you the same favor He showed Jacob. While Jacob was on a long journey crossing the desert, he was hot, tired, and hungry. Nothing was going as he wished. He reached a place to spend the night and found a rock to use as a pillow. He was in a tough spot, in a dark and lonely season. I'm sure he thought to himself that God had forgotten him. That night, he fell asleep unhappy, discouraged, and full of regret. In his sleep, he had a dream. He dreamed the sky opened up, and a huge staircase came down from the sky, with angels ascending and descending all around it. God stood at the top of the staircase and said, "Jacob, the ground you are lying on belongs to you and your descendants. I will protect you wherever you go. I am always with you until I give you everything I have promised." When Jacob woke up, he couldn't believe what he had seen. He said, "Surely God was in this place." The interesting point is that Jacob was not in a church, temple, or synagogue. He was in a desert. In this story, God showed that He is the God of difficult places, the God of times of loneliness, and the God of dark seasons. Maybe you are in a hard place now. Maybe you have a health issue. Maybe you are struggling with depression or caring for an exceptional child. You feel lonely, forgotten, discouraged. God is with you everywhere, just as He did for Jacob. I believe the sky will open for you too. God can accomplish for you what you have failed to do. Perhaps you are in a difficult position, but you are not meant to stay there forever. Your health will improve. People are set free from addiction. You, like Jacob, will say, "God was here. God healed me from cancer. God rescued me from depression. God blessed my business." God will not stop until He gives you everything He has promised. Surely you've heard the term night shift. This term refers to people who work at night. But let's consider it differently and understand its meaning as the changing of affairs during the night. It is said that God never sleeps. He not only works the night shift, but He changes things during the night. Perhaps you are in a dark season and don't realize how the problems before you will be resolved. But don't worry, a change is coming during the night. God, who works the night shift, is changing things in your favor. He is creating change in your health, in your financial affairs, in the addiction you struggle with. You think these problems will be with you for years. You think they're permanent, but get ready for a change during the night. This same thing happened to Paul and Silas. They were spreading good news in a city in the Philippines when they were attacked with clubs and imprisoned. They were thrown into an underground dungeon with their feet in stocks and chains. But around midnight, as they were worshiping God, suddenly a great earthquake occurred. The prison doors opened, and the chains fell off their feet. They were freed and left the prison. What happened? God shook the earth, opened the prison doors, and broke their chains. God, thank you for changing things during the night. Thank you that all affairs are going my way. It's true that it's dark now, but I believe what you told me. Light will burst in. Adam was alone in the Garden of Eden. His life was going well. He was naming the animals God created, enjoying the clear river, the beautiful trees, and the abundant fruit available to him. There was no problem, no sickness, no hardship there. From Adam's perspective, everything was perfect. But God didn't want Adam to be alone. God caused Adam to fall into a deep sleep. God placed Adam in a dark season, then took one of his ribs and created a woman from it. When Adam woke from his deep sleep and saw her, he probably said to himself, "Wow, God, this is amazing." But I'm sure Adam didn't know why God put him to sleep. He was happy before. His life was perfect. But some things only develop in darkness. And if God hadn't, so to speak, put us to sleep, taken us through a dark season, we would never know the worth of what lies before us. Perhaps you think God has put you to sleep. The flow of all affairs has slowed down. You've been placed in a challenging situation. Now you're in a dark season. But be brave. When you wake up and see what God has been doing, the first thing you'll say is, "Wow, God, I never knew you were going to take me here. I never thought we could launch the Compact Center. I never dreamed I would feel this healthy again." So know that God has some surprises in store for your future. So don't complain about your dark place, because it is leading you towards the amazing things God has stored up for you. Perhaps you don't realize this, but if it wasn't going to turn out for your good, God wouldn't have allowed you to go through hardship. Right now, God is at work behind the scenes. He sees what you are struggling with and knows how you feel about it. He tells you that dark seasons are not permanent. Maybe you're in a cocoon that's dark and uncomfortable, but He is busy building and shaping you. Your wings are growing. With every moment, you are closer to flying and reaching a new level. I believe that soon you will witness a change during the night, from sickness to health, from loss to abundance, from addiction to freedom. Light will burst in. Prepare yourself to receive wonders.